If you're in sales right now and you feel like something's just off, like the advice you're hearing just doesn't feel good in your body, you're not crazy. You're just being fed sales propaganda. I have been in this game long enough to see just how deep the BS runs. And it seems like every few months or every year, there's just some other BS floating around that says that you have to be this way or you need to close this way to make good money in sales. Last year, I closed over 3.4 million in high ticket sales, and I did that by leading with truth, psychology, and emotional intelligence. So in this video, I'm breaking down the sales propaganda that I am not falling for, and neither should you. And if you're ready to lead your sales calls with clarity and real power, hit that subscribe button. Let's get into it. The first thing I'm not falling for is this idea that you need to be an extrovert to be really good at sales. I understand why people might think that and why it's so easy to believe because you're talking to people all day. And so you might think, well, if you're really good at talking to people and you love building a rapport and having all these, conversations, then you're good at sales. But the reality is the best closers, the ones who make the most money, it's not because they love to yap. It's because they're good at listening. And who are the best listeners? Introverts. We're the best listeners because we don't like talking about ourselves and we're not interested in being the center of attention. So introverts actually end up being the best closers. This is because the most important skill is being able to listen to what the prospect said and then actually make connections and give them what they need so we can hear, are they fearful? Are they feeling shame? Are they insecure? And actually lead the conversation in a way that drives it forward and gives them what they need so they have the best chance of betting on themselves and closing at the end of the call. The next piece of propaganda that we are not falling for in 2025 is the idea that objection handling is the most important skill. Yeah, it sounds good on paper. It sounds like a great sentiment for marketing because objections is where a lot of people freak out and they get really scared because they're like, I don't know where to go. But the reality is if you have a powerful discovery where you're able to help the person get clarity, where you're able to uncover the truth of why they're going to buy today, why they're here, when you get the urgency, you actually eliminate objections. The best kind of calls are where the only objections you need to deal with at the end is just money logistics. So moving money around so they can actually get started. And the crazy thing is, I used to fall for this propaganda. I used to think that objections were the most important thing too. And so I got really good at handling objections over the last couple of years. And what ended up happening is, yes, I got so good that I could not wait to get objections. And so I did. I was expecting them and I would spend 30 minutes to sometimes a full hour objection handling on the back end of my calls. It wasted so much energy, so much of my life force. And I realized I was working so much harder instead of working smart. So now I just focus on having a very strong discovery so that way we have full clarity, all the truths come out, and any limiting beliefs that might hold the person back, we handle it way before money's even on the table. So that way on the back end is a much smoother process. Being able to have deep, powerful discussions on the front end of the call, this is how you build respect, not by having a superficial conversation and then slapping them around at the end of the call. Objections are a symptom of a problem, not a skill set. The next propaganda that I am not falling for in 2025 is the idea that we should always assume the close. Excuse me? That is incredibly tone deaf and just selfish and disrespectful to the other person you're talking to. We've all heard the saying that when you assume, you make an ass of you and me. So why is that okay to assume in sales? If you're just assuming that they're ready to move forward at the end of the call, then you're not actually listening and you're not leading. What do you think would get you more deals? Just assuming everyone's ready to close and just walking them through the process, or making sure you're getting proper tie downs, making sure they're actually feeling good about everything and ready to go, and then leading them once you've gauged that they are actually ready to say yes. True leadership is about guidance, not assumption. So the key is to meet them where they are and give them the leadership that they need in that moment so they have the best chances of betting on themselves at the end of the call. The next propaganda I am not falling for is the idea that you need a solid script to succeed in sales. Closers, you do not need a script. What you need is a framework so you know exactly what you need on the call. But most importantly, what you need is to know what question it needs to be playing in my head on repeat. And that question in discovery that should be on repeat in your mind is, why are they going to buy today? In my experience working with closers from all different kinds of coaching programs, I've noticed that scripts and word tracks end up putting closers in a position where they are way more focused on which word track do I pull out of my pocket than actually listening to what the prospect is saying. A simple framework is so much more powerful than a script because it gives you some guidance in terms of where you're going, because that's what you need to know up here. When you know where you're leading the prospect, it doesn't matter what kinds of curveballs they throw your way because you know exactly where to lead them, so you can just guide them back on track. It doesn't actually matter what specific lines you're saying, as long as you get them to the destination. Another piece of sales propaganda I am not falling for is the idea that if you have a really good pitch, your offer should be selling itself. That is not the case because in any industry at this point, there are so many competitors who have very similar pitches. And so why is it that somebody goes with one closer over another? It's because one closer took the time to actually connect and have a real conversation as opposed to like, look how amazing the product is. So you can have identical pitches across the board. This is already the case across so many niches, lead gen. So what's really going to make the difference is the conversation you had with the prospect, and more specifically, your discovery conversation, because that is what shows mediocre closer versus a very strong closer. And last but not least, the last propaganda that I am not falling for, and neither should you, is the idea that your sales results have anything to do with your self-worth or your value. I see this happen to so many reps, whether you're a beginner or more experienced. I see people get stuck in this trap of thinking that their numbers are a direct reflection of the value they bring in this industry or to their offers. That is not the case. Who you are, how you communicate, how you can connect and listen. This is the theme in this video. This is what determines your value in the marketplace. But when it comes to you as a person, you are enough regardless of where you are on the leaderboard. You are enough because there is no other you out there. Literally, there's no other closer who can sell like you, communicate like you, and make the impact that you are going to make. So whenever you feel like you're not enough for a certain opportunity, or you feel like your numbers just don't match up to go after something that you want, just freaking go for it. Because again, your results have nothing to do with your value. It's how you show up and how you lead. So sound off in the comment section. I'm so curious to hear what lies you've been hearing, what kind of BS you've been fed in this ridiculous hustle sales culture. And I look forward to connecting with you guys in the comments. Hit subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you in the next one.